Welcome to the West Ham Boys. Thank you for joining me. It's you're going to watch this on Wednesday morning. I'm recording this on Tuesday evening, and I'm going to talk about all the strikers that we're apparently chasing this coming summer. There's quite a few big names, aren't there, that apparently West Ham United wants at the club. So come on, West Ham fans, who do you want at the club, or who have you got your money on to be leading the line for West Ham United next season? If you're new to this channel, or if you've watched the West Ham Voice before, but yet to become a subscriber, please do consider subscribing. Costs nothing to subscribe and all the content is free. And if you enjoy the content at the end of the show, please do hit the like button because that's important. It elevates the channel on YouTube's algorithms and all that sort of stuff. So before we look at the strikers that we're linked to, let's focus on for a minute on the strikers who are still at the club, because there are still 4 of them, believe it or not. Look, we know that Danny Ings and Michail Antonio are at the end of their contracts at the end of this season. And it's pretty certain that Danny Ings is not going to be offered an extension on his contract next season. But what about Antonio? Now, we know that the accident that Antonio was involved in, and he's working really hard in the gym to try and get back to full fitness, etc. But will that be enough to keep Antonio at West Ham next season? I'm still not sure, to be quite honest with you. Look, he's been a great servant for the club, etc. But I don't think he's going to get back to Premier League level football anytime soon. Maybe, however, he might be kept at the club under a different capacity. Maybe he might be offered to stay at the club to train the academy players. And I think that would be fantastic if he does. I guess we'll see at the end what happens in the summertime. And then that leaves us with the other 2 strikers that we've got at the club. One who can't stay fit long enough, and the other is a player on loan who clearly seems unfancied by Graham Potter. Now, let's talk about Nicholas Fullkrug initially. Many people, and many fans and many pundits are speculating that Fullkrug will be sold in the summer. And let's be honest, if we manage to get, I don't know, half the money that we paid for him, then perhaps he might leave. But I think that Fullkrug is quite likely to give us another season, but not as a starter. More as a backup, like an impact sub, rather than the player that would regularly be starting games. Now, the 32-year-old German, he's made 14 appearances in all competitions for West Ham so far this season, but only 5 of those have been as a starter, and a couple of those were in cup competitions. And we know he scored 3 goals so far. Now, many fans would be moaning the fact that Fullkrug didn't start the game against Liverpool, and then they were complaining that he didn't come on soon enough or earlier in the game, because we've seen what he can do when he comes on as an impact sub. But as I suggested, and which was confirmed on Tuesday, West Ham United are monitoring the player's fitness really carefully, and feel that he's not really able at this stage to give us much more than around 20 minutes. Now, look, I'd rather have Nicholas Fullkrug on the pitch for 20 minutes than see him come on sooner, pick up another injury, and then we end up losing him for the rest of the remaining games of this season. Now, it was suggested to me that Fullkrug was not a regular starter for Dortmund last season, but I've looked at his record. And in the 49 games that he appeared in, 42 were as a starter. And that was in all competitions, including Champions League. So it's really his fitness that is the major concern for West Ham. And because of that, West Ham United cannot really rely on Fullkrug if he does stay, cannot really rely on him to become our regular starter next season. Then we move on to on-loan striker Evan Ferguson. Now, it's interesting that Ferguson has been used sparingly by Graham Potter since his loan move from Brighton. Now, and in the last 2 games, he's not featured at all, where Fullkrug has been preferred from the bench than the young Irish international. Um, I recall during the transfer window how quite a lot of fans were upset at West Ham because we didn't put in a loan bid with an obligation to buy. But that noise has since gone quiet. As Ferguson, to me, and I'm sure to many fans, has not really done enough to demonstrate or to edge his way ahead of injury prone Fullkrug. Now, it won't come as any surprise, I'm sure, to learn that we're not likely to be putting in a bid to have the striker at West Ham next season. So those are the four strikers that we currently got at West Ham and their current situations. So how about the strikers that we're supposedly chasing in the summer transfer window? Now, to be honest with you, I didn't even want to mention the first one, but the stories are out there. So let me just deal with it very quickly. Now, 20-year-old Samu Omorodion joined Porto from Atletico Madrid last summer, and it's already been rumoured that he's available for around about £60 million. They want to turn a fast profit on him in just one season. Now, in all honesty, I just don't think that Graham Potter and Carl McCauley are going to be in the market for such an expensive player. I could be wrong, but I doubt very much that it's likely to happen. So what about other strikers that we've been linked to for most of this season? Well, there are two in particular whose names keep cropping up. However, when you read the latest stories about them, we're either one step closer to getting these two players or one step further away. And the first of those two is Liam Delap of Ipswich. Now, the latest story has suggested that West Ham don't stand a chance of signing the talented striker. Apparently, according to ITK guru Fabrizio Romano, there are only two teams in the race to sign the 22-year-old, and that's Man United and Chelsea. Now, the story goes on to say that Delap had been heavily linked to West Ham United throughout the season, but a move to the stadium now looks remote. I just do wonder if there really is interest. Well, actually, no, there is interest. Why would we not be interested in a player of that caliber? But being interested in a player doesn't necessarily translate into being heavily linked to him or heavily linked to sign him. Sorry. Now, I'm sure we're interested in an awful lot of other good players around, but again, it doesn't mean that we're in the race to get them at the club. Now, the report goes on to say that former Man City Academy player has got a buyout clause of just £30 million if Ipswich are relegated. Now, look, at that price, great. West Ham can afford him. But there's going to be a massive queue for Liam Delap this coming summer if Ipswich do go down. But as many sensible West Ham fans have asked, even if he didn't have such a low buyout clause, how realistic is it to attract Delap to West Ham? To be fair, I'm not even sure that even Man United have the clout to end up getting him. But Chelsea, a club like that, unfortunately, yeah, I can see that potentially materialising. So finally, well, the other player that we've been heavily linked to throughout the summer is, of course, Jonathan David. Do you recall I was quite dismissive of the stories linking us to David every time they came up? And despite the ITKs suggesting that there have been positive talks between his entourage and West Ham, I still remain quite sceptical that we've got a chance of signing him. But, anything can happen, I guess. However, reports have gone on to suggest that David has been impressed with Graham Potter's vision for the club and that he has asked who will be in the team next season to create the chances for him to try and score goals from. So by that, even I've started to think, well, hang on a minute, perhaps there is a chance that the player could come to East London next summer. Sure, we can't offer him European football, but could it be the sort of club, or could he be the sort of player that might relish the challenge of a club like West Ham, where he might steamroller us back into Europe next season? Look, at 25, he obviously is going to want to play at the highest level. But maybe the player himself is thinking carefully about planning his future. Imagine if he went to a big club straight after Lille, whether in the Premier League or one of the other top European leagues, and imagine if it didn't work out. That could really damage his reputation and set him back. Now, it's happened to many players around Europe over the years. So perhaps coming to West Ham might be seen as a bit of a savvy move. Us fans won't like it, but David might be looking at West Ham as a bit of a stepping stone, a bit of a test to see how he gets on in one of the top leagues in Europe. And if he proves himself after a season or maybe two, he would then be in even higher demand by the top clubs around Europe. But does he need that stepping stone? Is he not already in demand anyway? Well, we keep hearing that clubs that had an interest in him are now dropping like flies. Now, whether that's true or not, I think we will only find out this coming summer. But it's one thing, I guess, proving yourself in the French league. It's quite another demonstrating that you are indeed one of the best strikers in the world by proving how good you are in a top league like the Premier League. And for Jonathan David, it would be a win-win if he came to a club like West Ham. If it worked out for him, the footballing world is his oyster. If it didn't work out for him, then his rep wouldn't really be as damaged as much as it might be if he failed at a bigger club. Perfect? I don't know. You tell me. But then an article today, Tuesday, when I read it on Tuesday, brought me back down to earth and back to my senses, and it made me laugh out loud a little bit because the article suggests that Graham Potter is now getting cold feet for a move for Jonathan David and wants to target a more traditional number 9 instead. What? If David isn't the epitome of a striker that would fit into Potter's plans, then I don't know who would be. All we have heard from West Ham social media for most of the season is that Jonathan David is Graham Potter's ideal striker and that he has demanded that the board make him our number 1 transfer signing this coming summer. And now the same social media channels are suggesting that Graham Potter is getting cold feet over a move for him. Talk about covering all your bases. What a way to do it. Yes. No, maybe not. Create a story that there's an interest, only then to cover your ass by saying that Potter doesn't want him. You got to laugh, haven't you? It would not surprise me in the slightest if we make a move for a very, very different striker this coming summer. And one such striker who recently has gone under the radar a little bit is currently plying his trade in Italy. Sold to Roma from Chelsea for nearly £40 million back in 2021. Tammy Abraham's time there has been blighted by injuries. He suffered a cruciate ligament tear, which made him miss almost the whole of the 22-23 season. But in 120 appearances, he still managed to notch up 37 goals and 11 assists for Roma. And this season, on loan at AC Milan, he scored 10 goals with 7 assists in 40 appearances so far. And he's only missed 3 games this season due to a shoulder injury. Other than that, the 27-year-old finally has a clean bill of health. He's scoring again, and Roma may well be looking to cash in on him when the season ends. He's still got 2 years left on his Roma contract, and apparently he'd be available for something like, 15, 20 million pounds? Look, maybe even AC Milan might be interested in keeping him. I don't know. But certainly a player like Abraham would offer Potter that more traditional striker profile, strong in the air, proficient in front of goal, can hold up the ball really well, goes out on the flank to sort of collect the ball to bring other players into the game, etc. It'd be interesting to see what happens this summer and whether someone like Abraham is likely to be the target that we're looking for rather than any of the other players that I've mentioned. Anyway, tell me what you think. Who would you rather see at West Ham to lead the line? And leave your comments below. And like I said, if you're new to the channel, or if you've watched the West Ham Voice before and yet to subscribe, please consider subscribing. And please do hit the like button at the end of this show. Thank you for watching and listening, and I'll see you all again soon.